Last season, the NFC South wasn't the best as Tom Brady and the Buccaneers won the division with a losing record. And now coming into this season, all these teams are looking a lot different, except really the Falcons. The Saints signed Derek Carr, the Panthers drafted Bryce Young, and the Buccaneers had Tom Brady retire. And now looking at this division now for the upcoming season, to me, it looks like it's up for grabs, except for the Buccaneers. I think the only reason that the Buccaneers were even relevant last season was because Tom Brady was the quarterback. They were on prime time every week. They were terrible. No one enjoyed watching them play. Now Tom Brady's gone, and I think they're just going to collapse. For the Panthers, they drafted Bryce Young. Now, just a few days ago, the Panthers did come out and say they named Andy Dalton as the starter just as of now. So I don't think it really means anything. They're just going to keep it competitive in training camp and during the preseason. Even if Andy Dalton starts the first few games, we're going to see Bryce Young coming at some point. And I honestly hope Bryce Young starts at the beginning of the season because I personally have a lot of faith in Bryce Young. But I know a lot of people think his height's going to be a problem. And the Panthers did end up signing a lot of weapons for their offense. Hayden Hurst, Miles Sanders, DJ Chark, Adam Thielen. With Bryce Young playing at a pretty solid level, they could be really good. And for the Saints, they signed Derek Carr. They have a pretty solid defense. I think it's just up to, can Derek Carr play? Is he going to be good in New Orleans? So there's a lot of questions up in the air for all of these teams. I personally think it's going to go Panthers or Falcons, top two, then the Saints, then the Bucs. But I could see the Saints winning it too, so it's a tough one. And for the record that I think would probably win this division, I'd have to probably say 12-5. I don't think two of these teams would both win more than 11 games. Maybe even 11-6 would just win the division. And for the Falcons to, let's say, win 11 games, Desmond Ridder is going to have to show up and at the very least be a solid game manager. There's a lot of questions up in the air about Desmond Ridder. How well is he going to perform this season? When should the Falcons bench him if he's playing bad? How much of the season is he going to have to be tested out to see, is he a good quarterback? Looking at last season, Ridder only played the last 4 games of the year, as Mariota started out the first 13. And a lot of people did say that Mariota should have been benched earlier to let Ridder come in, but I feel like it was fine that he played till week 13. The Falcons made sure that Mariota is not going to be our guy, and he's probably not going to be anyone else's guy, probably just a backup. And it wasn't like Ridder was a first-round draft pick. He did get picked in the 3rd round, and Mariota was probably still the original plan. But that's not to discount Ridder just because he was a 3rd-round draft pick. I think Ridder should have the full 17 games to start in every single one of them, and then the Falcons can make a fair assessment. Is Ridder good, or are we going to need a new quarterback? I feel like it's kind of crazy that people are counting out Ridder just because he was a round 3 draft pick. Obviously, round 1 draft picks aren't studs all the time, and sometimes you get crazy picks from round 4 that end up being all-stars. And also, people forget that at times Ridder was talked about to go as the first quarterback in the 2022 NFL Draft. Now, Ridder ended up going as the 74th overall pick, round 3, but if you compare the first 4 games of Ridder's rookie season to the number 20th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, Kenny Pickett, statistically, Ridder played better than Pickett. So for the people that think that Ridder shouldn't be given the chance at starting the full season for a fair assessment, is Ridder good or not? Then look at it this way. If Ridder starts the first half of the season and let's say he's 2-6, 0-8, something terrible, let him play the rest of the games and the Falcons can tank and get a quarterback in the next draft. Or Ridder figures things out, starts winning some games, and the Falcons finish the season 9-8. And there should be a pretty good chance that Desmond Ridder will be able to perform, as Drake London broke out for an amazing rookie season. London was the 8th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft and came out and dropped 866 yards and 4 touchdowns with Marcus Mariota as quarterback for most of the season. Drake London will be a great wide receiver 1 for Desmond Ridder, and it's going to be a solid weapon. However, the only problem is Ridder is kind of the Falcons' only wide receiver. Last season, the wide receiver 2 was Olamide Zaccheaus, and he was a pretty solid wide receiver 2 with over 500 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns, but he signed a 1-year deal with the Eagles. And Ridder will also have young tight end Kyle Pitts to throw to. He had 1,000 receiving yards his rookie season, but last year his production was a lot lower because of an injury during week 11, and he was out for the rest of the season. Last year, the Falcons offense finished in 15th for points per game, so they had a pretty solid offense even with Mariota struggling. The only thing that really worries me for the Falcons offense is Drake London being the only viable wide receiver for Desmond Ridder. But if the coverage is stronger on Drake London, it's going to open up other wide receivers, and I really think the run game will also open up Drake London. And the Falcons do now have some other wide receivers. This March, they signed Mac Hollins to a one-year contract, who kind of had his breakout year with 690 yards and 4 touchdowns with the Raiders. The Falcons also signed Scott Miller from the Bucks, who had an alright last season, and Kaderil Hodge they re-signed to another one-year contract, who also was alright last season. Moving on from the passing game though, the Falcons last season had the second most rush yards in the NFL, just behind the Bears and running back Justin Fields. Tyler Allgeier, round 5 selection, had an amazing rookie season, rushing for over 1,000 yards and set the franchise record for the Falcons for the most rush yards by any rookie. Allgeier was also a pretty solid dual threat coming out of the backfield, and he was very consistent as he had 0 fumbles, which is always an amazing thing. The only downside with Allgeier was he wasn't the best pass blocker, but that's something you can improve on, and throughout the year he said he was striving on being the best all-around running back he can be, so receiving, running, and pass blocking. So he's working on it, and I'm sure it'll improve. And even with Allgeier's dominant rookie season, Cordell Patterson was still able to drop 700 rushing yards. But now with the draft, there's talk that he might be traded, maybe to the Browns. That news came out a while ago though, so I feel like every day that goes on, it's less likely he'll be traded. I still think it'd be a good move to trade him. They could get some capital, maybe for defense, I don't know. But Patterson might be traded, and we all know that's because with the 8th selection of the 2023 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons took Bijan Robinson. Now Robinson is one of the best prospects we've seen in a while for the running back position, and the Falcons did just sign him to a 4-year, $22 million deal with, I believe, a 5th-year option. Now with this selection, the Falcons now have most likely the strongest running back duo in the NFL. Bijan Robinson and Tyler Allgeier. And to make it even better, the Falcons offensive line kind of had a breakout year last season and was extremely strong, so that just makes this running back duo even stronger. Now the Falcons' prevalent use of play action and running the ball did kind of help out the offensive line, making it a bit easier, but still 2 solid running backs, Drake London, a solid offensive line, and hopefully Ridder is coming in and is going to play well, because if Ridder doesn't play well, to me it's going to be a bit embarrassing, because I see a ton of potential with this offense. Looking at the draft, obviously they selected Bijan Robinson, then they went offensive line, just committing to that run game, and honestly Matthew might even be an upgrade for that offensive line and may start as a rookie. He'll at least get some play time. And then the Falcons pretty much just went defense for the rest of the draft. Last year, defensively, the Falcons were 21st in points per game allowed, so not the worst defense, but definitely not very good. Then they ranked 23rd in rush yards per game allowed and 25th in pass yards per game allowed. So obviously, it seems like the Falcons are continuing with their strategy of having just an extremely dominant offense that can't be stopped, having a shitty defense, and just hoping their offense can outscore the other team every time. With the Falcons' heavy run game, the other defense is probably going to get tired. I mean, Bijan Robinson, Allgeier, Drake London, hopefully Ridder is playing good. I think the Falcons might have a shot to win the NFC South. You'll have to let me know. I have high faith for the Falcons' upcoming season, and I can't wait to watch them play.